Hello everybody. So, my last video was a Kerbal Space Program career mode save file, just a little playthrough, going to Minmus and back, using a little rocket, using some modded parts. But I really don't actually like making those kinds of videos. So I'm going to be doing some tutorial videos now, where I'm just going to be showcasing like how to do these kinds of things, because I didn't really make it very clear how I did how I was doing all these kinds of maneuvers. You pretty much had to take me at my word. So for a beginner, I'm going to have to do that. So difficulty options are normal. It's all on default. So let's start the save file. Try a little bit of lagginess. Just a second. It often takes a long while for KSP to load, even on beefy computers like mine. I have a pretty beefy computer, but it still is not really that much. It's still not really enough to make KSP run very fast, so you can still see it's on a frozen loading screen. So let's just wait for a second. And here we are. Alright. Let's just wait for all the textures to load, and yep, there we are. Okay, so right away when you spawn in, we're gonna be seeing this little screen here. This is the Kerbal Space Center, and Gene Kerman, who's named after Gene Kranz from NASA, or from the Apollo program, he's gonna meet you, and he'll just say a bunch of basic information. You can read all of it if you want, but I do not like reading all these Kerbals stuff. I just prefer to do it my own way. Well, first thing we're going to be doing is a little jumping flea rocket. Is building a little jumping flea rocket in order to get our first few bits of like money and science. And what I'm doing is I'm going straight to the vehicle assembly building, which is that building in the center that you were seeing before. Behind the vehicle assembly building, behind the VAB is a building called the Astronaut Complex, and that's where you're going to be having all those. That's where you're going to be getting all of your Kerbals from, and so I'll just make sure you have all these. Yep, and I have a lot of parts mods here. I'm only putting on Restock Plus, Squad, and Squad Expansion because those are the ones you're going to probably be seeing. KNS mods like near future launch vehicles, all these parts mods you're probably not going to be seeing at all. So there's also like the tracking station, which is like a map view of the entire system. You're gonna have to. It starts at level 1. You're gonna have to upgrade it to level 3, just like every other building. And now to upgrade buildings, I'll just go back out and show you. To upgrade buildings, you're going to need to do several things, like get enough money and science. You're going to have to get enough money and science points. So money in Kerbal Space Program is called funds. And it's called funds. It's this little symbol here at the top, and this bar here is reputation. It starts at 0 because you haven't done anything, so you have 0 reputation. And you have 0 science points. On normal mode, you start off with 25,000 funds. On hard mode, you only start with. So on hard, you only start with. I think it's 10,000 funds, or on moderate mode. I haven't played KSP in a while. I haven't really got much stuff. But the first thing I'm going to be doing now is going to mission control. It's that small building there. And this is where we can find these contracts. Now, we only have 2 contracts at the top. We can only get 2 contracts right here. It says all active contracts, maximum 2. Here, because this is only level 1 building. If we upgrade to level 2, we can get 7 contracts, and level 3 we can get unlimited contracts. But the first thing we're going to be doing is gather scientific data from Kerbin, which will never expire, and we're going to be launching our first vessel. So just accepting these contracts gives you some money in advance, so that's pretty nice. But we're gonna have to upgrade the VAB almost immediately, which was gonna require 225,000 funds, because the reason we need to do that is because on level 1 the VAB can only you can only launch rockets with 30 parts in the VAB in level 1. And if we upgrade the VAB, you can get 255 parts maximum, and some basic action groups. Action groups we'll get to them later, but nevertheless, let's start building our first vessel, which is the aforementioned jumping flea. And so there's this little pod here. Let me make sure it's all up to date. Yeah, there's this command pod. It's called the Mark 1 command pod, and you can color it yeah, like this here, or like this. I'm using the restock mod. If you install KSP without any mods, it'll definitely look a lot different than this. I'm just using a lot of mods to make my game look a whole lot prettier. Now, normally you'd want to put a heat shield, but we haven't unlocked heat shields yet, and we're not going to need them anyways because we're not going outside of the atmosphere. And so just going to put this basic solid fuel booster here. And what I like to do is actually stack 2 of them on top of each other, because if we do that, then we get a lot more delta V, which is 880 meters per second here. And delta V, by the way, is the amount of velocity that you can change. So, like, your velocity, you can change it here. Since we have a parachute, it's going to be less. You can change our velocity from 0 meters per second up to 773 meters per second in an atmosphere, outside of the atmosphere. But this calculation here is actually based on this here, the delta V tools, and it does a bunch of calculations based on like the atmosphere. We're on Kerbin. We're gonna be launching this from Kerbin, so at sea level, right about sea level. So we are gonna pretty much accelerate to only 773 meters per second of delta V, or well, not delta V, just max. That's our velocity, but going that fast without much control is not a good idea. So I normally put 4 basic fins on it. Now you can put 3 if you want, but that's going to make the whole thing a lot more unstable. And another tip I like to use is you should install the mod Tweak Scale, which allows you to make these parts smaller and smaller. I like to make these at 50% maximum size, because that makes it a lot easier to maximize the delta V. See, it didn't change at all there because it just made it so small. And the next thing I'm going to need to do is put these science instruments. We're going to need science because otherwise, if we don't use science in Kerbal Space Program, we're not going to do anything. We're not going to get any funds. And so I'm going to put 2 here. I'm going to put 2 here. Starting out, it's pretty nice to put 2. It's pretty nice to put 2 mystery goos. These are called mystery goo containment units. It's pretty nice to put 2 of them on there because you can get 1 from the surface, 1 from the atmosphere, like 1 when you're flying. Sorry, but it's not the best thing. So generally if you want maximum science with a rocket like this, you're going to need 4 mystery goos. And so this is pretty much it. So now you can name your rocket. I'll call it the Jumping Flea. You can save it if you want. I don't do that normally. And then we can just launch it from the launch pad. Now the launch pad, like anything else, is going to be starting out at level 1. You'll be seeing it in a moment when KSP actually loads. It's going to be taking quite some time for KSP to load here. So, yeah, as I already mentioned before, KSP takes quite some time to load. With the more mods you have, it doesn't really matter how much RAM or VRAM you have on your PC. If you installed as many mods the amount of mods that I have installed, then it's just pretty much guaranteed to be very slow loading. But hopefully for you, if you install KSP without any mods, it won't be this. It won't be taking that long. And I just realized it's very bright. So the surface is very bright here, and that's because of this mod called Planet Shine here. I've made it way too bright for you viewers, so I'll lower that all the way back down to 0. That's bearable for people who have weak eyes, something like that. And we're going to need to press T on our keyboard, so the letter T. That's going to turn on this thing called toggle. It's SAS. You can press on it if you want, but I don't really like to do it. This is RCS, but we don't have any RCS units on board, so it's useless right now. And the first thing we'll be doing right now is actually taking Jebediah out, and Jebediah Kerman, who is our Kerbal. We're going to be taking him out on an EVA, so we're going to take him outside of the craft. We can remove his helmet and neck ring because we're in an atmosphere of oxygen, so he can breathe. And we can take an EVA report. Now this EVA report is going to give us 2.4 science for recovery. So we'll keep that data, and that's going to here in the early stage we're going to need all the science we can get, so we'll be doing all of that, as much as we can. And my game is very laggy for some reason, and I guess that is because I'm running OBS in the background, but hopefully for you it won't be this laggy. So now we'll do a crew report. This crew report is going to be for 1.5 science, so you record the crew's assessment of the situation, crew report from the launch pad, and then we do a mystery goo observation from the launch pad. We're going to be for 3 science. And now we're going to need to do some shenanigans here. So we're going to right click, we're going to take Jebediah out on EVA again, we're going to right click the command pod, and we're going to click take data. And that's going to put all the data from the command pod. And Jebediah is going to store it in his little mini computer in his backpack or whatever. And then that means we can take. Hopefully, that means we can take another EVA report. But it means that we can take another crew. No, we can't take another EVA report. But we can take another crew report. Now you shouldn't just do this immediately. You shouldn't just take 2 crew reports from the same location, because that's not going to give you as much science. You should do it from, say, the water, because the ocean is right here. So we can put it on the ocean, or from somewhere else on the launch pad. Now, one cool thing about the level 1 launch pad, which you can see here, is that this has got a little bunker. It's got this little bunker here. You can actually explore. You can actually go inside of it. And it's got a few other mounds like this and this one, and a little tiny little flagpole, and the other buildings as well are also visible. And yeah, you can see how small the mission control building really is from here. Is tiny. I bet my rocket is about as tall, maybe even a bit taller than than the mission control building itself. It's got this tiny little dish thing. I'm pretty sure this is a dish. All these small little lights. Whatever. Let's just start. So these are solid rocket boosters. So this here controls the throttle. It's not useful now because these are solid rocket boosters. These are 2 solid rocket boosters, and so once you start them, they cannot be throttled down or turned off. And before you do something like this, you always need to make sure your staging is like this. So the bottom solid rocket booster first, then a gap, and then the second solid rocket booster next. We don't have any separators or decouplers, so we're gonna have to make sure that we get the other stage off. This solid rocket booster is going to fire directly into the bottom one, and cause this part to overheat, making it explode, and allowing us to detach safely. And then this solid rocket booster is just going to send us even higher, and then the parachute. we need to make sure the parachute is in a different staging group, because otherwise it'll be a lot more difficult to control, because the parachute will just be dangling like that. But let's just go. So you press space on your keyboard, the space bar, and that causes the first solid rocket booster to just start. And you can press D on your keyboard to make it turn to the right. And then you press space again when this one stops. And it's not going as well as I had hoped, but just as planned, the first solid rocket booster has been burnt off, and now we have been launched high into the atmosphere. Now we're flying at Kerbin. That'll be 7 science there. And once we're at our highest position, when our velocity is as low as possible, we are going to we can try and get another mystery cube experiment. See if this is from. Nope. This is still flying at Kerbin. We want to get a mystery cube observation from Kerbin's upper atmosphere, because that will give us a new area, so some science. Although I don't think we can really do that right now, so we'll just do that. I'd like to get a Jebediah out on EVA right now, but except we can't, because the astronaut complex that I mentioned earlier needs to be upgraded in order for Jebediah and other Kerbals to leave their command pods. But what we can do is get a crew report from the upper atmosphere, and so now we are in the upper atmosphere. We can reset the goo canister very, 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 very quickly and observe the goo again. And that's 9 extra science. So there you go. It's gonna be quite high up. So yeah, it's not gonna be. Sometimes the craft can just flip upside down like it's doing right now. If it does that, so you can use your SAS wheels, the SAS control, to try to get it out of that position as much as possible. Although it's not really of much use at the moment. You can do this kind of resonant thing here, where you can try to knock it out of the position. But if something like this happens to you, then it's almost impossible. Trying to actually deploy the parachute right now is going to be nigh on impossible. And unless you can slow your craft down enough, which you can't in this case, so we're going to have to revert back to launch. So let's just pretend that was in the simulator, because that is technically a demonstration of what will happen if something like that happens to you, where your craft just becomes pointed directly into the ground, and that means you can't do anything about it. If something like that happens to you, then you definitely should not be just leaving your crew. You should revert to launch and try again. So we're going to be doing the same steps from before, and if we can just make sure that staging is correct. So we're going to be doing a crew report, a mystery goo observation, and an EVA report once this is done. An EVA report, just for as much science as possible. We're going to take all the data and board the command pod again, so that we can do another crew report later on. And just go again. And this time I'm gonna be doing a much more flat trajectory, a much more horizontal trajectory. It's going to be turning almost immediately because this isn't going to send us as high into Kerbin's atmosphere, so we're not going to be getting all that 9 extra signs from Kerbin's upper atmosphere. But we are going to be getting but it is going to be a lot safer for our crew. And if you play on hard mode, if you're going to play a KSP program on hard mode, this is going to be very important because on hard mode you cannot revert to launch, like at all. So doing this is paramount. So doing this is really important. Now we can do another crew report. I'm going to Kerbin's water, so the underwater topography. Now we're over 10,000 meters above, so I hope we can do a Kerbin's upper atmosphere report. Nope, we cannot yet, but we should be able to do it soon. Let's wait until now. Still traveling relatively fast. Nope. Well, I mean, a general rule of thumb is that you should wait until you're above 15,000 meters, and then you should go for there. It's not working for some reason for me. Alpha Centauri there. It's not really working for me, but it should work for you if you do it correctly. And yeah, no, it's not really working that much. It's not really working that well, and so we're not going to be getting the upper atmosphere stuff. So it's not going to be as good, but we can still attempt to get as much science as we can. So I'll just do another one of those mystery reports just to make sure they have one left, and then we'll point the craft in this direction here. It's going to want to flip around a lot, there's a thing called physical time warp, by the way, when you're in the atmosphere, when you're in the atmosphere, you can make time pass like 4 times as fast as what at maximum. Using the mod Better Time Warp, you can make it go as much as 12 times, or maybe even 100, sometimes even 100 times as fast. And I like to do this because it makes it very easy to actually get out of the nosedive, death spiral kind of situation. Why did I do that? That kind of situation where you have to, where you are just stuck pointing directly down into the ground, making you not lose any speed at all. You'll be gaining speed actually, and yeah, it's a very bad thing to be in. So I generally like to put the 4 times physical time on because it makes all your movements a lot more powerful on your SAS movements. So if you want your craft to turn left or right, you can. Those movements can be a lot faster. And a lot more powerful. And so this parachute is gonna gently get us to slowly touch the water. And there we go. We have our first landing. How much electric charge do we have? We have this. Yeah, this is another thing that we need to do, because that we need to be focused on, because there are these gauges here that show how many units of fuel you have, how many units of electric charge you have. Fuel, mole per round, and electric charge are the only thing we can see here. Electric charge is important because if you run out of electric charge, you cannot use SAS at all, and you cannot turn your craft in any direction, so your craft is just stuck pointing in whatever direction it was before. Or in the worst case scenario, it can just spin on its own out of control, and yeah, it's not going to be that good. There's only one problem though. The goo is now escaping into the water. So that's not a natural disaster in the making, but also there's not a natural disaster in the making. But now we are on Kerbin's surface, well, not really a surface, but we're at 0 altitude, so we can on Kerbin, so we can get out, get Jupiter out, get him to take a crew report from, or an EVA report even from the water. Take all that data, board again, and get another crew report. And so we've practically just maximized all the science we can get from this mission. So now we can recover the vessel. Now, after we wait once again several long seconds, it's probably even half a minute or something like that, to get until this loads again. And here we see we have earned 33.2 science, and we have 47 science in total from those contracts previously, and we've gotten 154,000 funds. That's a lot. We have 4,000 funds from recovering those parts, and the crew. It's all looking good. And here we have this mod here. I have this mod installed called Final Frontier Mission Summary. And it basically gives Kerbals like ribbons for all their achievements. So, like Research 1 awarded for researching 10 or more science points, EVA in Kerbin's waters awarded for any EVA in Kerbin's waters, Splashdown ribbon, First landing on Kerbin ribbon, Distance record ribbon for any distance greater than 10 kilometers, G-Force 7 ribbon, which is awarded for withstanding an acceleration of at least 7 Gs for 3 seconds or more, Mark 1 ribbon for flying horizontally at Mark 1 below 30 kilometers on Kerbin. That's in Kerbin's atmosphere. Altitude record for going above 1,000 meters, and another speed record ribbon for going beyond 100 meters per second. And now you have that. The next thing I'm going to be doing is going to the research and development building. I have the mod community tech tree installed, which gives a lot more nodes than you very likely will have. If you not install community tech tree, then you will not have the same R&D facility as me. The first thing we are going to be doing is going to be researching basic rocketry, engineering 101, and survivability. That's going to allow us to get into space. And we have 22.2 science left, so we can research general rocketry, which mostly just has a bunch of modded parts here. I have no idea why I have this many parts from real solar system, even though I do not have real solar system installed. But whether or not I have real solar system parts, most of these, this is in fact a node that you will see in the stock game. So you should still research it. So now we have 4 more nodes unlocked. And the next thing I'm going to be doing is focusing on getting all that money. Enough money to upgrade the vehicle assembly building. To do that, to maximize this, we are now going to have to do some more contracts. And here we now have a whole lot more contracts from a whole lot more companies here. And so, but the next one we're going to be doing is escape. But one of them we're going to be doing is escaping the atmosphere, because apparently we cannot be called a space program if we do not go to space. And the next thing we're going to be doing is none of these. Why is so many focused observational surveys here? We're not going to be doing any of that. We're going to see if we can also go into orbit around Kerbin. Now we have both those contracts, which both gave us some money, and since they are from Kerbin World First Association, they will never ever run out. So they do not have a deadline. Most contracts in KSP have deadlines in them, where if you do not complete the contracts before the deadline, you will get a penalty for not doing them. But these ones do. But the ones I have accepted for right now do not have any deadline, so they are the safest ones you can have. And here we have, now we're going to create another rocket. Well, put a heat shield on. It'll look like this kind of yellowy orangish color. Like now I said both yellow and orange, so I'm going to be appeasing everyone in the comment section. And you can make it unpainted in Restock mod, painted black or painted classic. It doesn't really matter what you painted. You can just leave it like that. You can for some reason you can stack heat shields on top of each other, which is like really weird, but you can do that. And the next thing we're going to be doing is get this separator, this decoupler. This is going to be the part that allows us to detach the capsule from the rest of the rocket. And we now have unlocked fuel tanks. These have liquid fuel. These fuel tanks have liquid fuel and oxidizer in them, making them highly reliable. So the first thing we'll be doing is put a Valent engine on here. That's going to be a whole lot of delta V. And then we're going to be putting a TD-12 decoupler below that. And once again, we have to contend with the fact that we can only put 30 parts of maximum parts on here. So normally, like the best thing you'd normally like to do is just put on a Thumper solid fuel booster, which is the biggest solid fuel booster we have unlocked currently, along with 2 hammer boosters, and a bunch of big thighs here. And I mean, yeah, it really does not look very aerodynamic right now. I would use the miniature nose cone here, but first of all, it's too small, so it doesn't fit. It's just too small. I mean, it does fit, but it's way too small. And it also is not a stock part from the stock game. You're going to need to install the Restock Plus mod for that. And I don't want that. And I don't want you to have to install many mods. So it's all right. And here we're also going to have to contend with another fact. This right here. When you build rockets, they will cost a certain amount of funds to build. That's shown here. And the amount of money you have here currently is shown here as well. If you have a rocket that costs too much money, that costs more money than you have right now, then you cannot launch it. It will not let you launch it, and it will just be red here. This text will be red, I'm pretty sure, and you just won't be able to launch it. So yeah. Now we have this is no longer the jumping flea. This is the Albert Mark 1. Alright, so now we have the Albert Mark 1, which is the rocket in all its glory here. Except there's a problem, because the launch pad while they're on the launch pad, you cannot launch rockets with weight of more than 18 tons, which is a bit of a problem right now because we need those side boosters. We can't put hammer boosters on there, but luckily we can. In fact, luckily we can put these flea boosters. In fact, I'm pretty sure we can put 3 on here. Yeah, we can in fact sneak 3 boosters on here. So yeah, there we go. We now have this rocket, and it actually costs a little less than 4, so it's actually even better. Now for the real Albert Mark 1. Here it is. Now time to launch it. So the goal of this rocket will be to escape the atmosphere and hopefully try to enter orbit of Kerbin. It very likely will not be able to get into orbit, but we can at least try to aim for that. And so, yeah, this is going to be very difficult early on to get into orbit if you don't upgrade the VAB or the launch pad. You can't, and yeah, the launch pad again, you're going to upgrade very soon, because if anything that's even like a ton more than this, if it had 1 ton more, weighed 1 ton more, then this launch pad would not be able to support it. You would need to upgrade the launch pad a little more so that it could support the weight of the rocket. But that doesn't matter right now because we have the rocket because the rocket works on this launch pad here, so we can launch it. Those 3 flea boosters are giving us quite a good amount of fuel here, quite a good amount of speed. They're going to run out very soon, so we're going to need to make sure we activate the thumper booster almost immediately after the fleas cut out. And the thumper booster, I have so many mods, the thumper booster actually has gimbal control, and that makes it a lot easier to control where your rocket is going. The thumper booster in the stock game, I'm pretty sure that it does not actually have this feature, but if it does, then I'll just ignore what I'm saying. Yeah, right now, but that's not important. What's important now is that we get out of the atmosphere. And I'm tilting to the side. I'm tilting the rocket to the side a little bit because if we want to get into orbit, we're going to need to go horizontally. So we're gonna have a horizontal velocity that's so much that we miss Kerbin. We're gonna be in free fall, but we're gonna be missing Kerbin's surface because we are going horizontally so much. Such velocity. Now I haven't put any science experiments on here because the goal of this rocket is just to complete those contracts. And hold on a second. Yeah, here I might. Yeah, looks like I might have a slight issue here. Not quite. Yeah, there's a bit of a modding issue here that I'm having. A little bit of a modding issue here. There's the plumes here. I'm 99% sure that with stock waterfall effects, these are not supposed. It's not supposed to look like this. I'll have to check my mods list first before that, but it doesn't matter right now because you probably will not have these mods. All those waterfall mods installed. Check my previous video if you want to know what waterfall really means, like in KSP terms. And we can press M on our keyboard to get to the map view. Now the map view just shows your trajectory, but it does not show your apoapsis, which is the highest point yet. However, using the mod mechjeb 2.15.1, you can. Oh my god! Yeah. So it looks like we have a little bit of a heating issue. Yeah. Well. It's not gonna be too much of a. Not gonna be too much of a problem right now because we're gonna have some ascent stats. That's good. Well, let me just see where this. Oh, it looks like I can't actually see right now. But it looks like, yeah, that is definitely a lot of altitude. We are definitely going into space, directly into space. And so let's just turn on physical time off to our maximum so that we can get out of the atmosphere. And now we can see this thing's flashing. Strategy availability change. Pilot focus, engineer focus, scientist focus. Yeah, that's from Strategia, another mod. And we have completed the contract of escaping the atmosphere, which is for 20,000. That gives us 20,800 funds, 4 science, and 8 reputation points. While we're here, we might as well get as much science as we can right now. I still can't go on EVA because the Astronauts Complex is not upgraded yet. And so the only science we can get is a crew report. Now we can separate the capsule and and wait until we hit the atmosphere again. And we can experience another thing. Because KSP, Kerbal Space Program, uses realistic physics, and so we're going to see re-entry effects. We're going to be seeing re-entry effects right here. Yeah, that's hot. Yeah, that is very hot. These re-entry effects in particular come from the mod Firefly, which is pretty much the exact opposite of waterfall. Yes, by the name. Or by the name. Yeah, you can probably tell by the name. Firefly is very different from the name waterfall. It creates these little, all these trails here. It's very, very neat. It's a really good. It's a really good mod. But what we have now is what we're going now. What's going on now is that we're going so fast through the atmosphere that all those air molecules are being compressed into each other, and they're higher pressure generally means higher temperature. So the whole thing, so all that air heats up so hot that it practically turns into a plasma, and then it just practically turns into a plasma, and with that plasma, it's so hot that it just likes to. Well, I mean, it doesn't really like to. It just creates all that wonderful re-entry effects. So now we just gotta wait. Oh, you know, just a little bit of a cloud jump scare there. We're gonna have to wait until we get down to the ground. Oh, now we're inside these red clouds. It doesn't even look like we're on curb anymore. If we're gonna be completely honest with you. But now you can see the ground surface. We realize that we are still on carbon. And that star right there, that is a different star from another mod that I have. It's called Tuin. That star's called Tuin there, as you can see from the name there. I have a lot of mods installed. I'll probably put the. I don't think I will put my mods list in the description, but I'll probably do a video where I showcase all my mods and like make sure that you guys are all in the clear about all this stuff. But now all that's left to do is just wait for us to touch down. Yeah, that explosion there you saw, that was just the heat shield. However, the capsule survived, and however Jedediah survived because he's in the capsule. That survived, and that's really all that matters. So we can safely recover the vessel. And that was our second flight there. Hopefully we can now get enough funds to upgrade the vehicle assembly building, and so that we can build our next rocket, which is going to be a Minmus lander. However, and it looks like we do in fact have more than enough funds to do this. So we're gonna have to upgrade the VAB. But that's it for today, because the next video is going to be a Minmus landing, where we're going to be sending a little lander to another celestial body and get as much science as we can in the process. So this is Alden Earthy on KSP, signing out.